I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
Recently, a decently old Jacksepticeye drama has re-emerged and become the topic of discussion once again after a few posts started going viral on different social media platforms. If you can't read and don't know what this drama is about, this all refers to a joke that Jacksepticeye made several years ago at this point about Amber Heard during the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case. Before we get into that, if you haven't already, please consider like, subscribing, and hit the notification bell. It helps out the channel, especially if you do enjoy the content. But without further ado, let's dive into the topic at hand. This recent Jack drama all stems from an old Jack drama from a couple of years ago during the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation when, like I said, Jack made a joke and comment about Amber Heard during the whole "my dog stepped on a bee" thing.
No, my dog stepped on a bee. We took him to the vet.
I actually managed to squeeze out a tear. You see, that's how it's done. That's how you actually cry. You believe in the things you're saying.
People were genuinely not very happy with Jacksepticeye when he made this comment, and similar comments made by people like PewDiePie when talking about Amber Heard.
Under the spotlight. Right, that because someone shared a compilation of resurfaced Jacksepticeye and PewDiePie clips where they're mocking Amber Heard's testimony. People angry at these two creators doing things like tagging Jacksepticeye and saying this is the cringiest thing they've ever seen. But the number calling him out specifically because he previously said that he thinks it's crazy that women face so much online harassment just for existing. With PewDiePie also getting a good share of the criticism as well, most people there kind of just bringing up his past controversies. But also as the backlash has grown, we've seen a lot of support for these creators. With people saying this isn't like just mocking women, not believing any woman, but specifically about Amber Heard. Right, this brings back the debate that we saw during the trial where you saw all those reports saying, you know, this is going to scare survivors of abuse, but others saying, no, that's bullshit. Amber Heard is lying here. This is specifically about one person lying. With people now also after the fact pointing to the decision by the jury saying, see, they also believe that she was lying.
Ultimately, what Jacksepticeye was doing here was making a joke on a very popular meme about Amber Heard. He wasn't mocking any of the actual details of the case. He was mocking how Amber Heard came across when telling that story, how emotionless she was, and how funny that bit was in the case, and that's why it became memeable, and Jacksepticeye was simply making a joke about it. But if you do disagree with that, or whatever feelings you have about it, on his podcast that ended a year ago, Jacksepticeye did actually respond to this and actually apologized.
There's one thing I want to bring up, which is, it harkens back, was it last year that the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing happened?
I think that was 2022, but I can't really remember.
That was all happening, and I didn't really know what the case was about. I didn't really care about either of them. I just saw memes on Twitter, and this is my own fault for doing this.
I mean, ultimately what Jacksepticeye is saying here is he had no idea about the severity of the situation or what was going on. He just saw these memes, you know, this clip of Amber Heard floating around, found it funny, and decided to mock her in that video and, you know, make a joke about it. Ultimately, the most that I'm willing to say about this is maybe it was a bit reckless to talk about the situation in any extent or make reference to it if you didn't know what it was actually about. But ultimately, I don't take issue with the joke he made. It is an incredibly tame joke on a giant meme of the situation that has nothing to do with the actual case details at hand.
I had a video where I was like parodying other stuff, and I had seen the memes of people doing her dog stepping on a bee, and I thought, oh, funny meme. Like in the clip, it looks like she's trying to act, but it's not working. And I thought that's where it ended. I thought it was a silly story.
Did her dog step on a bee?
I mean, ultimately, whilst the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation is rooted in something serious, there is no issue actually taking a look at the weird, bizarre, and funny clips that came out of that courtroom and talking about them and making jokes about them, even if they are rooted in a serious situation.
Yeah, it was like a story she was telling, and then there was a point in the story that she said, my dog stepped on a bee, and she's all distraught about it. And I like poked fun at that a little because of the memes that were going around. And I was like, the whole internet's like talking about this stuff. Can't be that serious. It's like two celebrities going at it in court. And then I did that thing and I was like, that's how you believe yourself. And I like made myself tear up. And then after that happened, so many people came down on me and were like shitting on me for making fun of like sexual assault and sexual abuse. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that that's what this was all about.
I mean, ultimately, that'd be a disingenuous taking perspective to have on that situation and the joke that Jacksepticeye made, because that just simply isn't the case and isn't what he was doing regardless. That is a big stretch. Just because you made fun of one clip that is rooted in a serious situation doesn't mean that you are making fun of the entire situation and the details at hand.
I'm like, that, like, it's all on me. That was stupid of me to, like, chime in with a meme that I knew nothing about. But I was like, I'm just doing the meme like everybody else is doing. And then it turns out that the case was like way more serious. And I was like, guys, I'm sorry. I don't care about Johnny Depp either. Like, I'm not trying to like pick a side here. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's one of those things where I'm like, I shouldn't speak before I have the full picture anymore. And that was one of those things where I'm like, I'm done kind of like getting involved in stuff that has nothing got to do with me. At least stuff that I haven't like looked into enough.
Ultimately, if your perspective of the situation is that you take issue with what Jacksepticeye said, that is your prerogative, but ultimately here he did take accountability for speaking on a situation that he didn't know much about, and you know, he is genuinely sorry about it, as you can see in this clip and how he's talking about the situation. Ultimately, he has addressed it and has apologized. My perspective, I'm more glad that he took accountability for speaking on a situation or making a reference or joke to a situation that he didn't know much about. That's what I more take issue with, not the actual comment itself. This entire situation has been re-dragged up due to this post, this innocent post. People saw this and decided to bring up this several-year-old situation and try and relitigate it. I mean, ultimately, if you've seen Jacksepticeye's response, don't think it's good enough, or you have your own perspective and still think what he said was bad, that is ultimately your prerogative. But lots of people are acting like he hasn't spoken on this situation whatsoever and are being incredibly malicious with this situation and are just trying to relitigate the situation for the sake of relitigating the situation and virtue signaling. Ultimately, if you don't want to accept his response or how he's addressed the situation, that's your prerogative, but ultimately acting like he didn't respond in any capacity is just disingenuous. Being upset about Jacksepticeye is good actually, because he never once apologized for the shit he said about Amber Heard, and either way, why would you make fun of an abused woman? It was never out of the question that man was guilty. The case was about if she could talk about it or not. And ultimately, what you're going to notice for a lot of the people going over and shitting on Jacksepticeye for this is the fact that lots of these people have absolutely no nuance on the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation. They just view it all in one light, when ultimately that's simply not the case, and doing that is incredibly naive and ignorant. And ultimately, when it comes to this situation, it isn't black and white, it isn't plain and simple. It isn't the case of somebody's good and somebody's bad. This whole thing is coming back around after a while, so where the hell are you getting this impression Amber Heard isn't an abuser, and some of you apparently think she deserves an apology. Amber and Johnny both were pieces of shit to each other. Nobody was innocent. Now, for user rights, I was trying to find out why people are being so rude, and honestly, people are way too nitpicky, because Jack is an overall good person, and one poor taste joke about an already not amazing person isn't that terrible. Right, but this apology isn't enough for the SA survivors to go, oh, I don't know, I don't care about either of them. This is an apology of him being aware that he said something stupid to a sensitive topic. We don't owe him forgiveness just because he's a popular YouTuber for a shit apology. Crazy how someone can acknowledge they fucked up, apologize for it, and people still say they never apologize. Like, truly, I don't know what some of you want. You don't have to like the guy or support him or even accept his apology, but you could at least acknowledge that he did apologize instead of spreading misinformation and saying he never apologized when he did. Once again, asking Smosh Twitter to stop being hypocrite and use an ounce of energy you're spending to hold Jack accountable on the Smosh cast, who made similar jokes about other abuse victims and never apologized about them. He really didn't need to apologize for that, by the way. She wasn't at all innocent in this case like her defenders claim. Nobody owes him forgiveness, and not knowing shit about the case and making fun of it anyway just because other people were doing it is stupid. Maybe don't make jokes about something you're uneducated about in the first place. Everyone on Smosh Twitter has no backbone. All it takes is a weak-ass apology and you'll stop pretending you give a fuck. I mean, simply put, I do believe lots of people are being disingenuous about this situation. Jacksepticeye made a joke about the whole my dog stepped on a bee thing several years ago that stemmed from the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, and that was it. He then, on his podcast, brought the whole situation up, spoke about it, spoke about where he went wrong, admitted that, look, I had no idea about the situation at hand before I made the joke, which I will 100% admit was reckless, and I'm glad he did take accountability for that. Lots of people have said that Jacksepticeye has never spoken about the situation that we know is blatantly untrue. If this was malicious, misinformation, or the fact that people just simply didn't know, regardless, they are spreading a falsehood around in this situation, alongside lots of people being malicious with what Jacksepticeye said and making it seem a lot worse than it actually is, blowing it out of proportion and just being disingenuous with this situation. Ultimately, my biggest gripe with Jacksepticeye is that in his response, he said that he didn't know about the situation before making comment on it, and I do think that is a bit reckless that you would make a joke about something when you don't know the full extent, because ultimately you could be saying something that is untrue when you don't know the actual context behind it. But ultimately what he said, I don't take issue with, and I ultimately don't think he should have apologized for that. My word, sorry, that was a lot of the word ultimately, but you get my point. I would love to know what you, the viewer, have to say about this pretty old situation that is currently being re-litigated. Please feel free to leave your thoughts down below, whatever they are. I'd be interested to see what you have to say. And once done, then you must subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future Slot Mule content. But I've been your host, Samuel. You've been watching me cover this Jacksepticeye topic, and I will catch you in the next YouTube video. Goodbye.